The Storms of Life, A Life Lesson in What We Believe, What We Leave Behind, by Marcus V. Brown. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved. Dedication to all who seek peace and understanding with their fellow human beings. This book is for those who, despite the storms of life, continue to reach across barriers and strive for harmony in a world that often divides. Acknowledgments. I would like to acknowledge that while there are many things we see that may be true and many more that we do not fully understand, none of this should keep us from striving for peace. As the scriptures remind us, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God.
Introduction. Before the storm passes. Fairpoint wasn't a famous place. It wasn't the kind of town you'd see on a postcard, or the kind that makes national news unless something went wrong. Just a patch of streets, a grocery store or two, churches on the corners, and people who knew each other's names whether they wanted to or not. Life in Fairpoint moved in a rhythm. People woke up, went to work, came home, and argued about the same things year after year. Some folks carried grudges from generations back. Others pretended the past was too far gone to matter. Everybody thought they had the picture figured out. But the truth is, none of us see the whole picture. We see what we've lived, what we've been told, and what we want to believe. We hear what makes sense to us, and we tune out what doesn't. Sometimes, we miss the truth because it's too far from our own experience. Sometimes, we miss it because it's too close, and we don't want to face it. That's how it was in Fairpoint before the storm. People walked past each other every day without knowing what the other was carrying. Some wouldn't have listened if they'd been told. Some wouldn't have believed what they were hearing even if they had. And then the storm came. It didn't come politely. The first gusts knocked over signs and tore branches from trees. The rain didn't patter, it hammered. In a few hours, streets turned into rivers, yards into ponds. Whole blocks were swallowed before most people realized this wasn't the kind of storm you wait out on the couch. Storms don't care if you're ready. They don't care about your schedule, your comfort, or the stories you've been telling yourself about how life works. They rip right through your certainty and throw you into the middle of something you didn't plan for. When that happens, you find yourself standing next to people you never thought you'd need, people you might not trust, people you might have spent your whole life avoiding. This is the story of two men in Fairpoint who found themselves in that place, forced together by wind and water, tied together by the simple fact that staying apart meant not making it. They didn't start as friends. They didn't even start as allies. They came into the storm carrying years of reasons to keep their distance. But storms have a way of showing you what actually matters. If you keep reading, you'll see the floodwaters. You'll see the streets break apart, the wind tear through what people thought would last. But you'll also see something else. The choices we make when we realize we can't make it alone, and the cost of waiting too long to open our eyes or our ears to someone else's truth. This isn't a story about the storm passing. It's a story about what it leaves behind. Chapter 1. The day the sky fell. The rain didn't ease in. It hit all at once, heavy and mean, bouncing off the streets, like someone was dumping buckets from the sky. Gutters spilled over in minutes. The ditch by the highway filled and spilled onto Main Street, moving fast. Sirens wailed off and on. But with the wind blowing hard, it was hard to tell where they came from. People were yelling to each other, but you had to be close to make out the words. Doors slammed. A car alarm kept going with no one to shut it off. A pickup tried pushing through the water at the corner by the diner. The driver gunned it too hard, stalled out, and the current spun the truck sideways. It floated until it jammed against a light pole. The driver climbed out the window, slipped, and went under. He came up once, arms thrashing. Then the water took him. A few people on the diner's porch saw it happen, but nobody could do anything. The front window of the pharmacy across from the grocery store gave way. Water poured inside, knocking over shelves and sweeping out candy bars and boxes of tissues. A couple of people inside forced open the back door and waded out, holding on to each other. A street sign came loose and clattered down the road. A piece of a metal roof tore away and slammed into the side of the laundromat. Somewhere close, something electrical popped, and downtown went dark. Only a few emergency lights stayed on. Daniel had his left hand on a brick wall and his right hand out in front of him. He'd made it halfway from his place behind the guitar shop to the hardware store when the water changed direction and the ground under his boots turned slick. He knew this wall well. He'd walked along it hundreds of times. The rough texture under his palm told him where he was better than any map could. Voices were scattered. Someone yelling for Brian. Someone else shouting that the bridge on Mill Street was gone. Close by, the water rushed harder in one spot, hissing through a gap he couldn't see. Daniel kept moving slow, shoulder against the wall, keeping his balance. Something bumped his shin. He caught himself before falling. One more step, then another. Across the street, Sam stood in the doorway of the cell phone shop, scanning for a safe way through. He couldn't hear the sirens, but the flashing lights bounced off the wet buildings. He tried reading people's lips as they shouted to each other, but they kept turning away. A kid on a bike tried riding through the water. Sam waved him toward higher ground. The kid swerved, but the bike slid sideways. He went under and came up by a parked SUV, clinging to the mirror. Sam waded toward him. The current shoved hard, but he got close enough to grab the kid's collar and pull him onto the hood. The kid crawled to the roof and stayed there, soaked and shaking. A woman in a yellow raincoat pointed toward the alley between the music shop and the hardware store. She made a throat-cutting motion. Danger. Sam looked. The alley had turned into a funnel, pulling broken wood and trash toward the flooded parking lot behind it. A man clung to a dumpster. Another person leaned out a window, trying to help. Sam started that way, but something across the street caught his eye. The brick wall of the old guitar shop. It was bowing out in spots. Down the sidewalk, a man was sliding his hand along it, face tilted like he was listening. Sam figured it had to be the same blind guy he'd seen around town a few times. Daniel kept one hand on the wall. He could hear the deep rush of water and lighter splashes close by, plus a faint creaking from inside the bricks. The wall trembled under his palm. Sam made up his mind and headed across. He kept his eyes on the sidewalk for holes, stepping only where the water was clear enough to see the ground. He reached Daniel.
"I'm coming to you,"
Sam said slowly so his lips matched the words.
"I made the wall."
Daniel answered, his voice shaky. The creaking inside the bricks got louder. The alley roared. The rescuer in the orange vest reached the man on the dumpster, threw him afloat, and hauled him in. Then another surge of water came and took them both out of sight. Sam stepped in closer and grabbed Daniel's arm.
"Move!"
He said, then again slower.
"Move with me!"
Daniel stepped away from the wall. The brick gave out. It slumped and fell into the water, sending up a wave that hit them both in the chest. Sam held his ground and kept Daniel upright. Behind them, shelves and crates floated out of the open side of the building. They made it a few more steps before a power line snapped and dropped low, sparking when it hit the water. Sam saw it and shoved Daniel back. Chapter 2. Strangers in the Rain. The power line hit the water and lit it up. Sparks jumped and hissed. The smell was sharp, burnt, and wrong. Sam kept his grip on Daniel's shoulder and stepped them both back.
Don't move!
Sam said, slow and clear. Daniel froze.
What is it? Wire! Stay still!
A few people yelled from the diner porch, pointing. Someone waved their arms and backed away fast. The current carried branches and trash past the wire, and every time something touched it, there was a small flash. Sam looked for a way around. The street to the left sloped down, too much water there. To the right, the road curved and disappeared behind the hardware store. The only solid spot close by was the hood of a stalled sedan.
Step where I step,
Sam told him. They moved slow. Sam led, feeling with his foot before each step. The water was mid-thigh now and pushing harder. When they reached the car, Sam guided Daniel's hand to the mirror.
Hold on! Climb up,
Sam said. Daniel got his knee on the hood, slipped, then tried again. Sam gave him a shove and he made it up. Sam climbed after, the metal creaking under their weight. From here, they could see over most of Main Street. The street they'd just been on was worse now. The wire danced in the current, still live. Daniel turned his head toward the sound of the water.
Someone's calling.
Sam scanned the street.
Where?
Past the truck near the pharmacy.
Daniel said.
It's faint. To the right.
Sam saw a man clinging to a stop sign. The water was at his chest, and he kept losing his grip. There was no one between him and the river except the current. Sam tapped Daniel's arm.
Stay here.
Not a chance.
Daniel said.
You lead, I'll follow.
They looked at the wire again. The only way to the man was past it. Sam thought about waiting for a rescue boat, but the man's head kept dipping under. He wasn't going to last. Sam sighed, checked the distance, then pointed.
We go around the car. Stay close to the building. If the wire moves our way, we stop. Got it?
Daniel nodded. They slid off the hood into the cold water again. Sam led them toward the pharmacy side, the current tugging at their legs. Behind them, another crack echoed, something big breaking loose. Neither of them looked back. Chapter 3 The First Rescue. The man on the stop sign was slipping lower each time Sam looked over. His chin barely cleared the water now.
Hold on!
Sam muttered. He glanced at the wire again, still snapping and sparking in the flood, and then toward the pharmacy wall.
Stay close to the building,
Sam told Daniel.
The current's slower here.
Daniel nodded, hand trailing along the bricks for reference.
Which way?
Right. Watch your step.
Sam moved first, testing each step before putting his weight down. The water was mid-thigh and cold enough to make his legs ache. Daniel followed, one hand on the wall, the other lightly touching Sam's shoulder. Sam stiffened at the touch. He didn't like people hanging on to him, and definitely not this guy. He didn't even know why he felt that way. Or maybe he did, but it wasn't the time to think about it.
You're slowing down.
Daniel said behind him. Sam didn't answer. He kept moving, eyes locked on the man clinging to the stop sign. They reached the corner of the pharmacy. The current sped up again.
Straight shot from here,
Sam said.
When we get to him, we both grab. Got it?
Daniel hesitated.
I can grab, but you're gonna have to tell me how far out he is. I can't.
Yeah, I know you can't see him.
Sam cut in, sharper than he meant. Daniel stopped mid-step.
Was that supposed to mean something?
Sam didn't answer.
We're wasting time.
Daniel's jaw tightened, but he followed. The man on the stop sign saw them coming and tried to shout. Water went into his mouth and he coughed hard. Sam waited faster, motioning for Daniel to keep up. When they reached him, Sam grabbed the man under one arm while Daniel got the other. The current pulled hard. For a second, Sam thought they'd all go under.
Step back toward the wall,
Sam yelled, so Daniel could hear him. They moved sideways, the man coughing and gasping between them. The The stop sign bent halfway over in the water as they left it behind. When they reached the pharmacy wall again, Daniel felt for the rough brick. Sam guided them until they found a shallow spot near the corner. They got the man propped against the wall, breathing hard. His eyes were wide, but he was alive.
Stay here.
Sam told him. The man nodded, clutching the wall like it was the only thing holding him up. Daniel turned towards Sam.
You want to explain what that was back there?
What?
The little jab. Yeah, I know you can't see him.
Sam looked away, scanning the street.
Forget it. We've got more important things right now.
Daniel let it drop, but the set of his mouth said he wouldn't forget. Somewhere behind them, a loud crack echoed down Main Street. Chapter 4: Currents of Distrust. The man they'd pulled off the stop sign leaned against the pharmacy wall, still coughing water out of his lungs. He was shaking hard, eyes wide, but breathing. Daniel stood nearby with one hand on the wall, catching his breath. Sam stayed on the other side of the man, scanning the street. The rain kept coming. The water was climbing higher, and the current was faster than before. The live wire down the block was still whipping around in the flood, sparking when debris brushed against it.
We need to move him soon.
Sam said. Daniel nodded.
You lead, I'll follow.
Before they could take another step, a sudden surge of water rushed between the buildings. It carried a half-submerged dumpster past them, slamming it into a parked car with a crunch. The impact sent waves bouncing back toward the pharmacy wall. The man took a half-step sideways to keep his balance. Nobody noticed at first that he'd moved a little closer toward the part of the street where the water was darker. The same stretch where the live wire floated just under the surface. It happened fast. 1 second he was still coughing. The next, his whole body jerked stiff. His hands shot out, fingers splayed. There was a faint hiss and a sharp crack, and the smell of burned fabric hit the air.
Hey!
Sam lunged for him, but the man's knees buckled and the current grabbed him. His head hit the water, and the flood pulled him away from the wall. For an instant, the sparks lit up around him as the wire drifted close again. Then he was gone downstream, bouncing off debris until the water swallowed him completely. Daniel's face turned toward the commotion.
What happened?
He's dead.
Sam snapped.
He touched the wire. Why didn't you have hold of him?
Daniel's voice was sharp now.
I didn't know he'd moved. You could see him. Why didn't you say something?
I was watching the water.
Sam shot back.
You were right there.
Daniel shook his head, water dripping from his hair.
I can't watch anything, remember?
For a moment, they just stood there, breathing hard, the storm roaring around them. Another loud crack echoed, this one close, and a chunk of brick dropped from the top of the pharmacy, splashing into the flood just a few feet away. Sam glanced up at the shaking wall.
Move! Now!
They didn't argue. They pushed off the wall and headed for the corner, both still carrying the argument in their faces, even if they didn't say another word. Chapter 5: Higher Ground. The water along the pharmacy wall was moving faster now. Pieces of wood, buckets, and a busted chair leg floated past. Sam kept Daniel moving, his own eyes darting between the street and the rooftops.
Which way?
Daniel asked.
Toward the hardware store.
Sam said.
It's higher ground, maybe less current.
They rounded the corner, the wind hitting them sideways. A plastic trash bin rolled past, bumping Daniel's leg before spinning away.
You're still mad?
Daniel said.
I'm not.
Yes, you are. You're still blaming me for that man dying.
Sam tightened his grip on Daniel's arm, steering him around a floating board.
I'm blaming you for not holding him when you could have.
Daniel stopped short.
I told you. I didn't know he moved. You could see him. You could have said something.
Sam turned, rain dripping from his chin.
Yeah? I've seen your kind before. I know how it goes.
Daniel frowned.
My kind? What's that supposed to mean?
Sam looked past him at the water rushing between the buildings.
Nothing. We need to keep moving.
No, you said it. My kind. Go ahead and finish it.
Sam took a step, pulling Daniel with him.
It's always the same. Somebody like you never listens, and somebody like me ends up paying for it.
Daniel's jaw tightened.
Somebody like me? You don't even know me.
Yeah,
Sam muttered.
I know enough.
They didn't talk after that. The only sound was the storm and the water slapping against buildings. Up ahead, the street sloped upward toward the hardware store lot. It looked better than where they were, so they headed for it. But when they reached it, the pavement felt soft under their boots, shifting with the push of the water. A low crack came from underneath, then another. The asphalt dipped slightly. Sam glanced down, eyes narrowing.
Don't stand still. Move!
They stepped forward, and the ground under them sank another inch. Chapter 6. The Drop. The ground sank again, this time with a dull, deep sound that Daniel could feel through his boots.
What is happening?
Daniel asked.
It is washing out under us.
Sam said.
Move! Now!
They tried to step faster, but the water slowed them. Cracks opened in the pavement ahead. Thin at first, then widening. One broke right between them and the hardware store entrance.
Back?
Daniel asked. Sam looked over his shoulder. The street they had just crossed was already deeper, the current faster.
No! Too late for that.
The asphalt under Daniel's right foot tilted. He caught himself on Sam's arm.
I got you,
Sam said, but his eyes were on the lot ahead. The center was starting to dip, water swirling as it poured into a hole below. A loud pop came from under the surface, followed by a rush of bubbles.
Hold on to me.
Sam said.
I am.
Daniel answered.
Not like that. Both hands.
Daniel did as he was told. A second later, the section of ground where they had been standing broke away, vanishing into a dark hole about the size of a pickup truck. Water roared into it like a drain. They were still on solid pavement for the moment, but the gap between them and the store was too wide to walk now. The only way forward was along the edge, hugging the brick wall to their left.
That wall is not exactly solid.
Daniel said, remembering the collapse earlier.
It is all we got.
Sam told him.
Stay close.
They edged along, one slow step at a time. Pieces of pavement were breaking off and falling into the water-filled hole beside them. Every splash made Daniel grip harder. Halfway across, a piece of floating debris, maybe a toolbox or small crate, slammed into Sam's leg. He stumbled toward the hole. Daniel yanked hard on his jacket, keeping him upright. For the first time all day, Sam looked straight at him and said,
Thanks.
Before Daniel could answer, another deep crack echoed. The edge under Sam's back foot crumbled away, taking his balance with it. Chapter 7. Truths We Didn't Want to Hear. The edge gave way under Sam's back foot. For a split second, he was weightless.
Then both men went down into the water.
The current grabbed them instantly, spinning them sideways. Sam held on to Daniel's arm with one hand and tried to swim with the other. Something solid slammed against Sam's hip, and he grunted.
Where?
Daniel shouted over the roar.
Left! There is a dock!
Sam pulled, kicking hard. He had spotted a low concrete loading dock sticking out from the side of an old warehouse. The top was just above the waterline. They hit the wall of the dock hard, scraping skin. But Sam found the edge and shoved Daniel up first. Daniel scrambled on his knees until he was clear. Sam hauled himself up after him, rolling onto his back, chest heaving. For the first time since the storm started, they were above the water.
Not safe, but safe enough to stop moving. Daniel sat cross-legged, feeling the edge of the dock.
Guess we are stuck here until it drops enough to move.
Sam pushed himself up and looked around. The street below was a brown river. Bits of siding, chairs, and tree branches floated past. The light was fading. Rain still fell, but not as hard as before. They sat in silence for a while, catching their breath. Finally, Daniel said.
Back there. What did you mean? Somebody like you.
Sam did not answer right away. His jaw worked.
You really want to know?
I asked, didn't I?
Sam stared out at the flood.
When I was 19, I got in a fight. The other guy was black. He and I already had a history. Words, shoving matches, stuff like that. One day, it went too far. He hit me. I hit the pavement hard enough to crack the back of my head. Woke up in the hospital with my ears ringing. The ringing never stopped. Hearing kept getting worse after that until, well, this.
He tapped his ear. Daniel's head tilted.
So you think every black man is like the one who hit you?
Sam's eyes stayed on the water.
You asked. That is the answer. People like you, trouble finds them, and the rest of us pay for it.
Daniel's mouth pressed into a hard line. He rubbed his hands over his knees before speaking.
When I was 12, I started losing my sight. Just blurry at first. Could not read the board at school. My mom worked for this rich white family, cleaning, cooking, anything they needed. She asked them for help, just a loan, to get me to a specialist. They had the money. Could have paid for the surgery without blinking. They told her, sorry, that is not our problem.
He turned his face toward where Sam's voice had come from.
By the time we found a clinic that would see me for free, it was too late. I woke up from surgery and the doctor said, I am sorry, son. It is gone. That is the day the world went black for me.
Neither of them spoke for a long time. The only sound was the water moving past the dock and the soft patter of rain. Sam finally said,
So you think every white man is like the ones who would not help you?
Daniel gave a short laugh with no humor in it.
I guess we're both guilty of the same thing.
They did not apologize. They did not shake hands. They just sat there, wet and shivering, side by side. Somewhere nearby, something heavy groaned, the sound of a building shifting. The dock trembled under them. Sam glanced at Daniel.
We are not staying here all night.
Daniel nodded once.
Then we better figure out where we're going next.
Chapter 8. One fight, one goal. The dock shuddered again. Something inside the warehouse let out a deep, drawn-out groan. Sam looked up at the wall behind them. A jagged crack ran from one corner of the loading bay to the roofline.
We cannot sit here. That wall is going to come down.
Daniel tilted his head, listening.
I hear it too. Which way?
Opposite side. There is a fire escape that might still be up.
Sam pointed, forgetting for a second that Daniel could not see. Then he stepped closer, tapped Daniel's arm.
I will guide you.
They moved fast along the edge of the dock. The surface was slick, and the wind had picked up again, tossing rain into their faces. Sam went first, keeping one hand out to feel for gaps. Daniel stayed right on his shoulder, one hand on Sam's jacket. At the far end of the dock, the corner dropped into a narrow alley between buildings. A rusty metal fire escape clung to the wall. It swayed a little, but looked solid enough to climb. The bottom rung was just above the water.
Grab here,
Sam said, placing Daniel's hand on the rung.
Pull yourself up. Then put your foot where mine is.
Daniel's boot slipped once, but Sam caught him under the arm and hauled him up. Once Daniel had both feet planted, he took the next rung without hesitation. Sam followed. Halfway up, a sheet of metal tore loose from the warehouse roof and crashed into the dock where they had been sitting minutes before. The sound made Daniel flinch.
That would have been us,
Sam said.
Yeah.
Daniel replied, breathing hard. They reached the top of the fire escape, stepping onto the flat roof of a smaller building. From here, they could see the flood stretching across town, rooftops, treetops, and the tops of streetlights poking out of the brown water. Sam scanned for a way forward.
That is the high school gym over there. It is on a hill. If we can make it that far, it is probably dry inside.
How far?
Daniel asked.
Couple of blocks.
Daniel nodded.
All right, you lead. I will follow.
Sam looked at him for a moment, rain dripping off his nose.
If we run into trouble, I will tell you what I see. You tell me what you hear. Deal?
Deal.
They crossed the roof, dropped onto another fire escape, and climbed down to a narrower street where the water was slower. Sam called out hazards, floating debris, loose wires, unstable ground, and Daniel warned him when he heard something coming their way before Sam saw it. By the time they reached the end of the block, they had avoided a half-sunken car, a loose propane tank, and a collapsing porch. For the first time that day, they moved like they trusted each other. When they stopped at the corner to catch their breath, Sam said,
You saved my neck twice back there.
Daniel shook his head.
Call it even.
They kept moving toward the hill where the gym stood, both of them scanning, one with his ears, the other with his eyes, and for once, not thinking about what separated them. Chapter 9. The Bridge That Broke. They made it to the base of the hill. The high school gym was still standing, its big double doors shut, the parking lot a shallow lake. Dozens of people were outside. Families, older folks, kids, all trying to get in. A police officer waved them forward.
Come on, get inside before it rises again.
Sam guided Daniel through the crowd. Inside, the air was warm and damp. People sat on bleachers with blankets and bottled water. Volunteers were passing out sandwiches. For the first time all day, it felt like the storm might not win. Then someone burst through the doors out of breath.
The old steel bridge. It's about to give. There's a bus on it, full of kids.
Gasps spread through the room. Sam looked at Daniel.
That's the East Road. You know it?
Daniel nodded.
Yeah.
They followed a crowd of people outside and down the road toward the river. The East Bridge stretched between two swollen banks, the water nearly touching its steel underbelly. A yellow school bus sat stranded in the middle, tilted at an angle, back wheels lifted. From the bank, Sam could see children's faces pressed against the fogged-up windows. Rescue crews were already on the bridge, moving fast, carrying kids two at a time toward the far end. The sound of the water under the bridge was deafening. Daniel stood still, his head tilted.
That bridge is groaning, you hear it?
Sam's voice was tight.
I see it. The supports are bowing.
A loud metallic crack split the air. People screamed. One of the rescue workers shouted for everyone to move faster. Another crack, louder, followed. The middle span of the bridge gave way with a roar. Steel twisted. The bus lurched forward, and in an instant, it was sliding toward the opening. Sam saw the rescuers still on the bus. He saw small arms reaching out from the windows, and then the bus dropped into the river, smashing into the flood water and rolling once before it disappeared. The rescuers, still on the bridge, were thrown into the water. The current was too strong. Sam and Daniel stood helpless on the bank as the river pulled them under, one after another. In less than a minute, they were gone. Every single child on that bus, every rescuer still aboard, and two more rescuers in the water. Dead. No one came back up. People on the bank were sobbing, screaming, holding on to each other. Daniel's voice was barely above a whisper.
They all died?
Sam didn't look away from the spot where the bus had gone under.
Yeah, they're gone. All of them.
The river carried away pieces of the bridge, seats from the bus, and anything else it could claim. The flood didn't slow, didn't care. When Daniel and Sam finally turned back toward the hill, the gym's warm light seemed impossibly far away. Chapter 10. The Argument. The gym was quieter now. The sound of crying had settled into the occasional sob. People huddled together on the bleachers, holding kids, holding blankets, holding anything that felt like it might keep them from falling apart. Daniel and Sam sat side by side on the bottom row, both still dripping rainwater. Neither had spoken since leaving the riverbank. After a long silence, Sam said,
That's why I don't believe in second chances for everyone.
Daniel turned his head toward him.
What's that supposed to mean?
I mean, it's always the same. Bad choices, bad situations, people getting themselves into trouble. Then the rest of us have to clean it up. Pay the price. Those kids,
Sam's voice caught for half a second before he forced it steady.
they didn't deserve to die, but you can bet someone screwed up to put them on that bridge.
Daniel sat up straighter.
You think this is about bad choices? That bridge was falling apart for years. They never fixed it. And you know why? Because the east side of town doesn't have money. And you know who mostly lives there? People who look like me.
Sam frowned.
There you go again. Everything's about race with you.
Daniel didn't back down.
Because it is about race. My parents didn't have money because their parents didn't have money. And you know why? Because my grandparents were cleaning houses and picking crops, while yours were allowed to go to school, buy land, build something for themselves. We've been playing catch up for generations, and people like you pretend it's all fair now.
Sam's voice sharpened.
You think I was born rich? You think I had it easy? My family worked for everything we had. And yeah, I've read the stats. I've seen the numbers. Crime, violence. It's not all history, Daniel. A lot of it's now. A lot of it's choices people keep making.
Daniel laughed once, without humor.
Let me guess. You've read those pamphlets and articles about how some races are just more dangerous, right? Maybe some book that tells you it's all our fault.
Sam didn't deny it.
I've read stuff that makes sense to me. Stuff that lines up with what I've seen.
What you've seen
Daniel said slowly.
isn't the whole picture, but you've already decided I fit it. Just like I used to think every white man would turn his back on me, like that family did when I was a kid.
They stared at each other. Around them, the gym's murmurs went on. Whispers, sniffles, the low hum of a generator. Daniel finally said,
We just watched a busload of kids die, Sam. White, black, whatever, all gone. And here we are arguing about who's worse.
Sam looked away. His jaw tightened, but his voice was softer.
Yeah, I know.
The PA system crackled overhead. A volunteer's voice said,
Storm surge expected in 2 hours. Everyone needs to stay inside until further notice.
Daniel shifted, resting his elbows on his knees.
Guess we're not done with each other yet.
Sam gave the smallest nod.
Guess not.
Chapter 11. Back into the storm. The gym got busier after the announcement. Volunteers pushed people to the higher bleachers. Someone taped plastic over a broken window. The floor had a thin sheet of water on it now. You could hear it sloshing under shoes. An older woman near the door said,
Those boys left earlier. Said they were going to check on their uncle.
Daniel turned his head.
What boys?
3 from the east side.
She said.
Teenagers. They were sitting by the vending machines, and then they were gone.
A volunteer shook his head.
We can't send anyone out. Not now. It's too dangerous.
It's always too dangerous for some people.
Daniel said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. He stood up.
Where did they go?
East Road,
The woman said.
toward the old 2-story with the green steps.
Daniel faced the sound of Sam's breathing.
You heard her.
I heard her.
Sam said.
And I heard the part where they said nobody goes out.
They are kids.
Daniel said.
They are out there alone.
It's not about who they are.
The volunteer said.
It's about the water. We could lose more people.
Daniel set his jaw.
Or we could bring 3 back.
He reached for Sam's sleeve.
You can see, I can hear, we can go together.
Sam looked toward the doors, then at the people huddled on the bleachers.
You can't see the streets.
You can't hear the streets.
Daniel said.
Pick one. Stay and guess what happens, or go and find them.
Sam let out a long breath.
Fine. We go. Fast in and fast out.
They pulled 2 cheap rain ponchos off a stack by the door and stepped outside. The rain hit them like gravel. The water in the parking lot was up to their knees. It was colder now. The wind shoved them sideways.
Talk to me.
Daniel said.
Cars half under, a dumpster near the curb. Power lines are higher here. No sparks.
Sam paused.
Gas smell from somewhere.
I hear water rushing hard on the next block.
Daniel said.
Left side, a wall or a truck pushing it.
They moved in a line. Sam in front, one hand out. Daniel behind, hand on Sam's shoulder. When Sam stopped, Daniel stopped. When Daniel tensed, Sam looked for what he could not hear. They turned onto the east road. Houses on one side, small shops on the other. The water was waist deep here and moving. A porch swing knocked against a railing and cracked. A pickup sat at an angle with both doors open.
Green steps.
Sam said.
I don't see them yet.
Daniel raised a hand.
Listen.
Over the wind and the water, there were voices. 3 boys shouting to each other, then calling for help. They sounded young, strong, and scared.
Right.
Daniel said.
Farther down.
They pushed on. A loose door floated into Sam's legs. He shoved it away. A metal sign scraped along the pavement and clanged against a hydrant. Daniel winced at the sound.
There.
Sam said.
Green steps. 2-story. The porch is tilting. Boys are on the top step.
We see you.
One of the boys yelled.
Please, hurry.
Stay where you are.
Sam called back. He spoke big and clear so his mouth matched the words.
Do not jump. We are coming to you.
They were 20 feet away when the house shuddered. Something big upstream must have hit it. The porch post bent. The steps dropped a few inches. Water climbed another rung.
Move,
Daniel said.
Fast but steady.
Sam answered. They closed the last few feet. The smallest boy reached out a hand toward them, eyes wide. A dark shape slid out from between 2 buildings upstream. It was a full wall section, studs and siding still attached, riding the current like a barge.
On your right,
Sam said. His voice was tight.
big, heavy.
I hear it.
Daniel said. He put his body between the boys and the incoming debris and grabbed the railing with his free hand. The wall hit the porch supports. Wood cracked loud and sharp. The porch dropped again. One post snapped and kicked free. The steps tilted toward the street, dumping water across Sam's boots.
Take my hand,
Sam told the smallest boy. He pulled him to his chest, embraced. Daniel reached for the second boy's wrist.
I've got you. Step to me.
The third boy tried to move, and the railing jerked. He slipped and went to one knee. Water rushed over the step and took his shoe. The house groaned. The porch floor split down the middle. The front half started to slide away from the door.
Now,
Sam said. They had seconds. Chapter 12. The Surge. They moved single file, Sam in front. The 3 boys in the middle, hands locked. Daniel last, one of the boys holding his wrist and guiding him.
stay tight.
Sam said, big and clear.
Hold on to each other.
The rain was colder now. The water was up to their waist in some spots, then dropped to their knees, then climbed again. Cars were half under. A trash bin spun in circles and banged into a mailbox. Somewhere close, a door slammed over and over against the wall.
Listen.
Daniel said. He stopped.
Something's cracking. Upstream. Heavy.
Sam turned his head. He couldn't hear it. Only saw the boy's eyes go wide when the wind dipped and the deep sound came again.
Sam, back. Now.
Daniel shouted. Sam pivoted and started toward Daniel's voice. They didn't make it 3 steps. A wall section and a mess of broken lumber hit the water upstream and sent a thick surge down the street. It slammed into them from the side hard enough to knock all 5 off balance. The boys' grips broke. One went right, one went left. The smallest went straight, arms flailing. Their voices cut through the rain for a second, and then were gone. Daniel went under. The water rolled him and pulled at his legs. He tried to stand, found nothing, swallowed a mouthful, and went under again. Sam threw himself toward the sound of Daniel's shout. He couldn't hear it clean, but he could see the shape of him under the surface, the dark coat twisting in the current. Sam dove, grabbed for an arm, missed, tried again and caught fabric. He hauled up with both hands until Daniel's head broke the surface.
Breathe.
Sam said, face inches away so the words matched his mouth. He hooked an arm under Daniel's and pushed them both toward a leaning light pole and the front fender of a half-sunken sedan. The pole groaned. The car shifted, but held. Daniel coughed hard.
The boys.
They're gone.
Sam said. His face was flat.
I'm sorry. They're gone.
Daniel tried to turn toward the street. His hand slid on the wet metal. He sucked in air like he wanted to shout again, but only coughed. Red washed into the water beside them. Sam looked down. The surge had driven a jagged board into Daniel's side just below the ribs. It had torn out, leaving a deep gash. The edges of his shirt were ripped and dark. Blood kept coming.
Stay still,
Sam said. He pressed one hand against the wound.
Hold here.
Daniel's face went pale.
Can't feel my legs right.
You're in shock.
Sam said.
Hold the pressure.
Daniel tried to press his own hand over Sam's, but his fingers shook and slipped. Sam scanned the street. The current still pushed hard. Debris drifted past. A toolbox, a plastic chair, a piece of roofing. No sign of the boys anywhere. The gym was 2, maybe 3 blocks away over ground that didn't exist anymore in any way he trusted.
We have to move,
Sam said. He put Daniel's arm over his shoulder.
I'm going to stand us up. On 3.
They pushed against the car and rose together, slow and shaky. Daniel's knees buckled. Sam took the weight and set his feet wide.
Tell me where.
Daniel said, voice thin.
Toward the gym,
Sam said.
Short steps. Lean on me.
They edged along the car. Every step cost them. The water tried to knock them down. Daniel's breath turned ragged. Blood ran warm down Sam's forearm. They reached a narrow patch of higher ground, only a parking divider with gravel on top, but it gave them a place to stop. Sam eased Daniel down to sit against a bent signpost. Daniel's head lolled for a second, then steadied.
I pulled you out of the path.
He said, barely above a whisper.
You did.
Sam said.
You saved my life.
Daniel nodded once, eyes unfocused.
Good.
Another surge pushed down the street, lower than the last, but enough to remind them they weren't safe. The sky was still a solid gray. The wind cut through soaked clothes like nothing. Sam looked toward the gym hill. He couldn't measure the distance right now, only the work. He tightened the makeshift pressure with his hand and felt the hot pulse under his palm.
Daniel,
he said, leaning close so the words were clear.
I'm going to get you back.
Daniel blinked slow.
Don't let go.
I won't,
Sam said. He looked at the flooded blocks between them and the gym, then back at the blood on his hands. The water rose another inch. Chapter 13. The Final Push.
The rain was coming down in sheets now, slamming sideways in the wind. Sam had Daniel's arm hooked over his shoulder, one arm clamped tight around the man's waist, dragging more than carrying him. The water was higher than before, up to Sam's chest in some places, and every step felt like it was going to take them under.
Stay with me, Daniel,
Sam yelled, turning his head so Daniel could see the words.
We're close. Just a little more.
Daniel's head lolled against him.
Can't feel much,
he murmured, the words faint.
You don't need to feel. You just need to stay,
Sam said, gritting his teeth. They fought past a floating fence post, then a metal trash can that spun at them in the current. Sam kicked it away with his foot, nearly losing his balance. The water pulled at them, tugging sideways with every step. Somewhere above the wind, something metal banged like a broken bell. They ducked around the shell of a collapsed house, using it for a moment of shelter from the wind. Sam tried to shift Daniel's weight, but the man sagged heavier than before.
Almost there.
Sam said again. He wasn't sure if it was for Daniel or for himself. When they came out from behind the building, Sam saw it. The gym. Squat and gray in the storm, its high windows glowing faintly. It was no more than a block away. He felt a rush in his chest that wasn't just the cold.
See it?
Sam asked. Daniel shook his head slightly, as if to remind him.
We're right there. Hold on. You're gonna make it.
They pushed into the open stretch of flooded road. That's when Sam heard the low groan of something giving way. He didn't need to hear it twice. He knew that sound now. He turned, and the whole side of a half-collapsed building broke free. Bricks, wood, and a wall of water came at them like it had been waiting.
Move!
Sam shoved Daniel forward, trying to steer them into the open. The surge hit before they could take 3 steps. The current slammed into them from the left, ripping Daniel from his grip. Sam lunged after him, but a beam caught him hard in the ribs, driving him into the brick side of a shop. He felt the crunch before he felt the pain. It stole his breath. He tried to push off the wall, but the water was faster. Another strike to his back sent him under. Sam's body never came back up. The storm had killed him.
Sam! Sam!
Daniel's voice was raw, cracking between coughs. There was no answer. The water had already taken him. Daniel turned toward the sound of the gym, at least where he thought it was. But the next surge lifted him off his feet. He flailed for something solid, found nothing. The current spun him until there was no direction, just cold, just noise. His voice was weaker now as he called for Sam, blood still spilling from his wound. The lights of the gym blurred through the sheets of rain, then faded. The storm swallowed him whole. Daniel was gone. The flood had killed him too. Chapter 14. What the storm leaves behind. The storm took Daniel. It took Sam. It didn't stop to ask what they believed, where they came from, or what grudges they carried. It didn't care who had been wrong in the past or who had been hurt first. It just came, and it destroyed. That's how storms work. Floodwater doesn't read history books. The wind doesn't ask about politics. Death doesn't pause to see what color a man's skin is before it claims him. Daniel and Sam didn't like each other when they met. Not truly. Each carried something in his chest about people like you. Sam had lived through a moment of violence that shaped the way he saw men like Daniel. Daniel had lived through years of struggle and neglect that made him sure men like Sam had no real concern for him. If the storm had never come, they might have gone their whole lives without speaking. If they had passed each other on the street, they would have looked away. And in their minds, they would have felt justified. But the flood changed the rules. Daniel could hear what Sam could not. Sam could see what Daniel could not. One without the other wouldn't have lasted the first few hours. And so they moved together, not because they liked each other, but because they needed each other. Somewhere in the middle of it, between the rescues, the losses, the close calls, the people like you began to fade. The man in front of you, the one pulling you from the current or holding you up when your legs give out, is not a stereotype. He's just a man. Flesh, bone, breath. And for a little while, the only thing that matters is keeping him alive. That's the part we keep missing outside of storms. We are so quick to carry the past into every present moment, dragging the weight of history behind us like an anchor. We judge each other by what someone else did decades or centuries ago. We build our walls high and call it wisdom. But if the water rose tomorrow, in your city, in your neighborhood, on your street, would you let the man beside you drown because he was not your kind? Would you pull your hand back because of something his ancestors did? Daniel and Sam died in that storm. 1 block from safety, they were killed. And the truth is, they might never have agreed on everything if they had lived. They might never have shared the same opinions, the same politics, the same beliefs, but they would have owed their lives to each other. And maybe that's the point we keep forgetting. We don't have to agree to care. We don't have to be the same to help. We don't have to erase our differences, but we can choose not to let them destroy us. Because one day, the storm will come. And when it does, it won't matter who started it or what side you were on before. It will only matter whether you reach for the person next to you or let go. Conclusion: blind and deaf. Daniel was blind. Sam was deaf. But in this story, their blindness and deafness meant more than the storm. The blind man couldn't see the world the way others did. He could imagine it. He could piece together a picture from what people told him: the shape of a tree, the way the sun lit a street after the rain. But he couldn't truly see it for himself. A lot of us live the same way without realizing it. We can't see past the history we've been handed. We can't see that someone might be different than the stories we've been told about people like them. We assume they've had it easier. We think they've had advantages we never had. We stay blind to the truth because our eyes are fixed on the past, a past that happened before we even met them. And while we're staring behind us, we miss what's right in front of us. The deaf man couldn't hear. He didn't know the sound of the storm the way Daniel did. He didn't catch the warnings in the wind or the rush of water coming closer. He didn't know the difference between the hum of calm and the roar of panic. And in life, some of us live like that too. We can't or won't hear the pain of others. Sometimes it's because we don't believe it matters. Sometimes it's because pretending we don't hear is easier. And sometimes, even if we didn't cause the pain, we just don't want to be reminded of it. Because listening means we'd have to care. Listening means facing truths we'd rather avoid. For some, silence feels safer. That's what Daniel and Sam stood for. One couldn't see. One couldn't hear. And between them, they each held part of the truth, but never the whole truth. It was only in the storm that they began to see clearly. It was only in the storm that they began to hear each other. The storm didn't just hit the town. It stripped away excuses. It forced them to depend on each other's strengths. It proved what we already know deep down. We need each other's sight. We need each other's hearing. Because alone, we will always be missing something. And when the storms of life hit, and they will, what we leave behind in each other's lives will matter far more than what we believed about each other before it began. And now, the storm is over. The book is done. But your life is still going. You don't have to wait for disaster to see someone clearly. You don't have to wait for tragedy to really hear them. You can start today, right now, by looking for the person you've avoided, misunderstood, or judged. By choosing to hear them out. By letting them show you who they are, not who you've been told they are. And by showing them, through your actions, that you're willing to do the same. Because the truth is, the storms of life don't just come with wind and rain. They come in the form of loss, change, struggle, and misunderstanding. We can make them easier to weather for ourselves and for others if we face them together. So thank you. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being willing to walk through this story. Now it's time to take it with you. Not just as a story you read, but as a truth you live.